All right. Thanks for tuning in to this special episode of Hashtag Dork. Full disclosure, we are normally a dick and fart joke type of podcast mixed around movies, TV, video games. But every once in a while, there's somebody that is just means so much to so many people. And in this case, it's Chadwick Boseman, who we all found out on Friday night passed away after a 4-year battle with colon cancer. And I never know what to say when somebody dies, whether it's somebody I know, whether it's somebody I don't know, whatever it might be. And it's no different this time around. And I was talking with these guys, Davey, Mac, Goo, who are joining us now, and was like, should we talk about it? Should we do like an episode about it? Should we talk about it? Like, what do we do? And so that's what we decided to do. And that's what we're doing here today. So if you guys in the chat want to chime in with some of your favorite moments from Chadwick Boseman, or, maybe even what he meant to you, like we are all ears. But first and foremost, fellas, how you doing?
If you asked me 48 hours ago, it would have been a completely different story. And it's odd because Mac, you were the one who kind of broke it in our group chat. You were like, R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. He's like, oh my God, or something like that. And I was like, and my initial response was like, no fucking way. Like, no way. There's no way. And like, I thought it was one of those internet hoaxes because you didn't hear a word of this. Like, this just came out of nowhere to everybody, and like the second I went on Twitter, it blew up.
It was everywhere.
It was everywhere. And it was just like, I never met the guy. I've never been in the same room with him. I've never been in the same.
I guess
state
we should
with him.
say that right now. None of us have ever met the guy.
We
but
don't
the
know
point
him.
is,
we don't know him, but it feels like you kind of do. I know that's easy, but like it feels like you kind of do. And he's also one of those guys that the more I've read about him since Friday, the better a person he is. Like,
absolutely.
There's all this stuff that we didn't know. Like, not knowing that he was sick almost sums up like how he was. Like, we didn't know just all the different charity work he was doing.
We saw that video, what was it, 5 or 6 months ago, where he looked very thin, and people were either concerned, saying, or is he losing weight for a movie, or is he just naturally thin? And then he pulled that video down because he didn't want people to start getting suspicious of it.
Yeah. I assumed it was a role, right? Like, anytime you see a really good actor, either like get big or small,
and he was a really good actor. He was a great actor.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys know how big of a bastard I am. Most things don't affect me, especially celebrity deaths. But Chadwick Boseman just hit different. It seems like he was one of those guys that was well liked by anyone and everyone. It's just weird to kind of comprehend that someone that had life by the balls and never once showed you an inkling of him being down or him going through some shit, and constantly just giving back and paying it forward. And I think that's why everyone's kind of hit hard by it. Is he was at death's doorstep for 4 years, 4 years, and he was still on top of the world. And who knows how many lives he touched just because he wanted to. He could have quit. He could have went through chemotherapy and stayed home and took a hiatus, but he didn't. He knew how important his characters were. He knew how important Black Panther was going to be. And he sort of just sacrifice isn't the word, but he saw the greater good here. And that's so impressive.
So Mac, you said a couple things there of paying it forward. And it seems like from 2016 on, if you listen to any interview with him, anything with him giving a speech at like an award show or talking to a group of people, it sounds like he is like trying to change how people perceive other people in the future. Or he was, talking about when he was doing a behind the scenes for Black Panther, and he was talking about how he was having discussions with 2 cancer patients and how they were holding on just to see the movie, and he would give him snippets, and they passed away before the movie, and that just killed him. Like it was the worst thing to him.
I mean, that really blew me away too. Is all the stories about him visiting kids with cancer while he was also fighting cancer, like just crazy as he was doing that all the time. And kind of what Mac was saying. This is the one thing I don't do a lot of 180s on things. Like usually, I'm kind of, as you guys know, once I make my mind up, that's kind of it. But over the last couple of years, I used to be like, couldn't believe when people would react to celebrity deaths. I was like, you don't know them. Like, react to the people who you know that are in your life. But when you see how much they affect certain people, then I completely understand it. Like Kobe Bryant was kind of another one that I was blown away when it happened because it was out of nowhere. But then you just think of all the kids that like looked up to him, all the kids that he liked, and how good he was, and you found out even more so after the fact just how good he was with kids. Same thing with Chadwick Boseman. This was a guy who, yes, he played a number of roles. The one that stands out to me and probably us here on this podcast is obviously Black Panther. When you think about it, I love Blade, but the first legitimate black superhero
Blade also wasn't
because
Blade also wasn't for a wide audience. This wasn't for everybody.
He was half vampire, for God's sakes.
But it was also rated R.
Rated R, and then even like Luke Cage came around, but actually I don't know if Black Panther was before Luke Cage, but either way, like one where kids could look up to, and it's still amazing to me that it took until 2018. Like Black Panther, you could make the case is the most important like movie character of all time, like fictional movie character of all time. I would say is like Black Panther and like Wonder Woman are probably the two most important, and we've gotten them both in the last few years.
And Mac made this point a ton of times when the movie came out, and people were, "Oh, it's not that special, it's not that great," and he made just every single time. Imagine how you felt when Batman came out in 1989, when you saw your hero on the big screen. They had to wait 30 more years for to get proper representation for themselves. And this was it. And it wasn't just Black Panther in the movie. And he played a huge role in making sure that was more of a team movie. And it wasn't just like an individual hero. He's the only hero in the movie, which then made it more accessible to Black women too.
As four white guys talking on this podcast.
How dare you give that away?
Sorry. Well, there's a video component. There's no pulling anybody now. But it's one of those things where I never even thought about it as a kid. I'm sure you guys didn't either. Like you see Batman, white guy. You see Superman, white guy. You see the X-Men, pretty much all white guys. And you're just like, whatever. Like you didn't really think anything of it. So you can only imagine though, if you're a young black kid watching movies and you're like, yeah, a lot of white guys out there. There's nobody that looks like me really anywhere. And then they're like, oh yeah, here's Kazam. You're like, no, I don't want to be Kazam. What is this? I don't want to be Kazam. And then finally you get Black Panther. And
do you mean Steel?
Both of them. Two different movies, I believe.
Kazam's a genie.
Kind of superhero-ish. Most genies are.
He's a rapping genie. But okay.
I mean, think about it. Everyone had a favorite superhero as a kid.
Yeah.
In large part because you could see yourself, imagine yourself as them. Spider-Man's a great example. And there's thousands, not millions of kids over the years that have never seen themselves depicted as a superhero. And that's crazy to think about.
It's nuts.
Crazy to think about. My little brother, half brother, he's half black.
Yep.
Was so excited. He doesn't even really like superhero movies, but he was so excited to go see Black Panther, and being able to share that experience with him was incredible. And then he went and saw it with other friends. And like, that's the type of thing we're talking about here, the ripple effect of it. And Boseman, I think it was at the AFI Awards. This was making the rounds on Twitter too. He talked about how 20 years ago, Denzel Washington paid for the scholarships of 9 acting students at Howard. Chadwick Boseman happened to be one of the 9.
That's a great story.
Which is an incredible little gesture there. And just by that one gesture from Denzel, he spawned 9 careers. Think about all the shit Boseman has done that we've now seen that's coming to light over the last few days. How many lives he's touched when his was at the lowest. I can't wrap my mind around that. Like it's mind-boggling to me, because we all know, everyone at this point in life has sort of known or dealt with a family member or close loved one that has had cancer. And just on a day-to-day basis, getting up out of bed is tough. And to do what he did is just nothing short of amazing.
I don't know how no one knew about it, or how like no one found out about it. I would imagine that the studios had to know something, but they were sworn to secrecy through contract or something. He couldn't just not tell them, correct?
I mean, he doesn't have to disclose, like Rich said for the HIPAA, he doesn't have to disclose the reason, but if he has doctor's appointments or whatever, they can't tell him he can't go to a doctor's appointment.
But just this day and age of so much social media, TMZ, everything, there was nothing. And even when that video did come out 5 or 6 months ago, there wasn't this like breadcrumbs of people now following this to see if he was in fact sick.
Well, think about like some of those movies too, like some of the action scenes, and even if it's with the green screen,
Think about
whatever.
how big he got for Black Panther.
Oh, I know. And then again in Infinity War, Endgame. Obviously, not a ton of screen time in Endgame, but still, maybe the most impactful screen time.
And you know what's crazy too? Now that I'm thinking about it, I watched The Five Bloods, and I remember saying to myself, and I might have even said it to you, Rich, I'm like, he lost a lot of weight. Like, and now it's like, holy fuck. And I think the worst part to me was watching these interviews, watching that thing. I don't know if you saw the thing with Fallon, where he had the people talking, like, what do you want to say?
Yeah.
And they said, like, we're going to give it to him. We're going to make sure he gets the message. What do you want to say? And he was backstage. And then the thing with St. Jude's, he was going to the kids at St. Jude's, and then he was talking to somebody else. And someone said in an interview with him, like, wow, like you've really been through the ringer this year. And he's like, one day I'll live to tell you all about it. Like that was the gut punch to me. And I kept saying it over and over in my head. Like he knew, like this entire time he knew. And the crazy thing, what he did from Black Panther on was he then played, was Thurgood Marshall. But he took all of these roles. I'm trying to think of the other movies he was in. After
Davey. So from 16 on, he was in Gods of Egypt, which was great, obviously.
Yeah.
Captain America: Civil War, Message from the King, Marshall, Black Panther, Avengers: Infinity War, Avengers: Endgame, 21 Bridges, Da Five Bloods, and then he has a movie coming out on Netflix. Is it this month or next month? Which is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
So when you know. And
that one, sorry, Davey, that one's produced by Denzel Washington, which is interesting. Also co-starring Viola Davis. So,
but what's crazy to me is like every role from Black Panther on was intentional. Like there was something about those roles that was meaningful to him, and I think that's why he threw so much into Black Panther, and why you get so much of him in that movie is he knew that was it. Like that was going to be the legacy. Like that's what I did, you know, and that's what I can't get my head around. And that's what I'm having such a hard time kind of coming to grips with is like, fuck. Like,
so that's what's so sad too. Like not only was he a hero, like literally to so many kids, and I mean, hell, even adults, but especially for kids out there. But it just felt like he had even more to do. Like he got it. You know what I mean? And like if he was doing Jackie Robinson and James Brown and Thurgood Marshall and Black Panther now, you can only imagine
4 amazing biopics.
Yes. He had so much more, I think. I mean, what was he, 43 years old?
43.
He had so much more to do. And I also heard another interview that he was doing. This one actually might have been when he was on The Shop on HBO. And he was talking about like early on, and like his agent would throw him all these roles that he should try out for. And he's like they're pretty like stereotypical like roles that, because you notice like he doesn't have a 100 movie filmography. You know, it's about 12 movies, kind of like tight movies. And, you know, obviously Black Panther 4 different times. And that's the same character for most of the movies that he was in. But like he really took off with Jackie Robinson, which again is like, to me, almost no surprise. Like the more you read about Chadwick Boseman, that like the first big time role that we got from him was Jackie Robinson, how important he was, and now how important Chadwick has become for everybody. I mean, that's again why it was just such a shock when we found out.
Yeah, and to that point too, when he was Black Panther, I mean, we knew him from 42, but when he became Black Panther, you know, his star was sort of born in essence. And so you start to dig into him, learn a little more about him. I was shocked to learn he was 40 years old. I would have bet he was like 26, 25.
Yeah, I thought he was younger,
British too.
That's sort of what makes this kind of hit even harder. Like, man, like he just got here. He just arrived at the top of his game, and now it's no more.
So did you guys read the Coogler article that came out, I think, on Marvel.com, where he said he pretty much inherited Boseman as his Black Panther before he signed on, and he wasn't really sure at first because, you know, he hadn't met him. And then once he met him and he realized that not only in Civil War was Boseman speaking a real language, because he thought that he was, you know, doing kind of like a stereotypical fake African language with his father. But in fact, Boseman learned, I think it's Soza or Soza, whatever
spelled with an X. It's hard to pronounce. Yeah, it's hard to pronounce.
But it's John Connie's actual language. So he learned all of those lines in that language to make it that more authentic. And then when it came to Black Panther, they went out of their way to almost have every character have a different African dialect so that they could have everyone be representative. So I believe that Black Panthers is more of like a Nelson Mandela South African, but then everyone else is east, west, north, and all over the place.
I watched Black Panther again this weekend, and that scene where he first fights Winston Duke is just so good. Like, it looks so cool.
Yeah.
And like they're fighting on this waterfall.
The tracking shot of him coming out of the airplane is fucking so cool.
Incredible. Like, great movie. Like, he's in 4 of the 8 best MCU movies, probably. Like, it's pretty remarkable. But yeah, then the stuff that you're reading about him after the fact, and yeah, it just kind of blows you away. And then Davey, I know you can kind of speak to also like the men's health aspect of it, and like what he was dealing with.
Because that's kind of our demo, and also it's kind of us 4 that we should.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is one of the things I was reading. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. Like the week before, about how colon cancer is on the rise in men between 25 and 40 years old. I mean, researchers don't know why. It could be the food you're eating, it could be whatever, but like, this is a real thing. And what's difficult about being a guy sometimes is asking for help and understanding that, like, that pain I'm feeling right now, like, I got to go to the doctor. Like and that's kind of like, we've been kind of brought up to have this idea of like tough it out. Like, I mean, how many times has anyone told you like be a man? Like, what? Like, be a man. Like, stop crying. Be a man. Suck it up. Like, cut the shit. Like, to me, like, and I'm sure he did everything he could as soon. I understand, but like sometimes, it's not enough. You know what I mean? And I was telling you guys, we were talking about this a little bit behind the scenes, and like the other thing too, like, what we were just talking about. Like, I think one of the things that in terms of like being healthy and checking in and all that stuff is like, what people are saying in the chat, like, you got to be comfortable. Like, we didn't know this guy, but there's a feeling there, and you got to be cool. You don't you don't say like, what the fuck? You don't fucking like, what do you care? Just a fucking superhero movie. Like, no, it's not. It's and you have to allow people kind of the space to kind of get their head around it, and that's part of mental health as well, is being able to grieve for someone you didn't know. And I think that's all, like you said, Rich. I mean, you've done a 180 on it. Like I did. And that doesn't make you, and again, like that doesn't make you a hypocrite. That just means you're a person who's growing and now understands something to be completely different.
A rare change for me.
A rare change for you. But like that's honest to God, like that's a sign of sign of growth. Yeah. That's a sign of like, all right, I'm a human being.
I'm a father now, right? It's
speaking as a father, yeah.
Yeah. And Mac might have some kids. We don't know.
We don't know about him. So I assume he knows what it's like.
But it hit us 4 hard, who are just average white dudes, and I can't imagine what it's like for. Speaking of those people in the Fallon video, like those people were so touched by him,
man.
And then his responses. This is what really caught me. His responses to each and every one of them, you could tell he cared. He listened to what they said, and he was genuinely touched by them. Mm-hmm. And that's rare for someone that big of a star. They do a meet and greet, they shake hands on the way. Like, he actually cared about those people, and he had never met them before. And that's sort of what this is here. We never met him before, but we cared about him because he cared.
There's a pretty cool story from W. Earl Brown is the name of the actor. He actually played Gale Weathers' camera guy in Scream. Kenny, you know what I'm talking about? So he was in the movie Draft Day.
It's on Blogspot.
Yeah.
Kenny.blogspot.
That's him. He was in Draft Day with Chadwick Boseman, and he told a story about how they were going to a baseball game together, and Boseman was late. And he got there, and he was like super apologetic. He's like, sorry. And he's like, that's like, sorry, what happened? He's like, well, I was like, this was a couple years after 42 had come out. And so he was still really well known for 42. And he's like, he got bombed with like autographs. Like, all these kids came up to him. Everybody wanted autographs from him and all this other stuff. And Boseman was like, I'm not Jackie Robinson. Like, I played him, but like, that's not me. And like, these guys are like, they want my attention. Like, I'm him. And W. Earl Brown was talking about how he was even taken back by that. 'Cause he's like, most actors have a pretty big head, and like they think that it is them, and they're like, it's all about them, and they're like, even though they're playing a real character, they're like, well, I'm this guy, and like most of them would have eaten it up, whereas he was like, he had a hard time with it. He's like, well, listen, like, Jackie Robinson's the one that you want the autograph from. Unfortunately, you can't, but like, that's the one that you want, not me. And I wonder if really kind of from then he must have realized just the impact that he has. And then I think from there, Black Panther was probably 100 times more significant, right? Because it was not a real person. It was this fictional character, but finally up there with Captain America and Iron Man and all these white dudes in their 30s, like it's finally a representation that we hadn't had before.
And what's great about that character, and I'm sure everybody who's watching this right now, like I went back and I watched Black Panther, I watched scenes from Endgame and Civil War and stuff, and what's important to realize too is when that character shows up, he's the best of all of them.
Yeah,
he's one of the smartest, he's the richest, he's the most powerful. Like and that, I think when you watch Endgame, like he's the first one who comes out. Like on your left scene, they're the first ones who come out.
Well, what I love too, yeah, and that was huge. And like I tweeted one of the guy, I retweeted his thing that the crowd reaction. And Mac, I know I saw it with you. I saw it for the first time with you. I know that was your second time. I don't know how many times you saw it in the theater, but that was literally the closest thing to a sporting event that I had been to as far as a movie was concerned. Was Endgame. And obviously there were other scenes, Captain America holding, Mjolnir and things like that. But when Black Panther walked across with Shuri and Okoye when they came walking through, place went nuts, and it was awesome. It was literally like being at a game 7 of like the Celtics.
Keith, I told the story. We were at a screening with critics, mind you, and when this happened, like when he walked out, all the critics in the audience started to fucking cheer.
Yeah, you can't help yourself.
Yeah,
my favorite Black Panther experience. I tweeted it out. The song, "All the Stars," the Kendrick Lamar and SZA. So that song, the kid says at the end, they're in Oakland, and he says like, "Who are you?" And he smiles at the kid, and then bam, it goes right into the hook of that song. The whole theater started dancing. I've seen audiences cheer. I've seen audiences boo. I have never, and will probably never see again, an entire audience start dancing.
That was
incredible.
At the end.
And it wasn't like the song so much. It was just like joy. You know what I mean? It was just like people were so happy that was the movie that they got. Because we had heard of because I remember thinking with you guys, like, how's Black Panther going to fit into all this? Like, how are they going to do this?
He's a little bit late to the game. They had so many movies. The universe had been built up. There had already been like 15, 16, 17, however many movies at that point.
And origin stories too.
Yeah, a ton of them. And he went right to the top. And like the way they introduced him into Civil War, because you remember that was also the movie that Spider-Man made his debut in the MCU. And his was great, don't get me wrong. But you would assume that Spider-Man would kind of steal the show, and he was great. But some of those Black Panther scenes were just so good, and you couldn't wait to see his own movie, his own standalone thing, and how he was going to be with it. Because they gave you like a little taste of some of the people in his universe, but not everybody, or in his world, I mean. And it was so good. And you mentioned how he was the best of everybody.
Yeah.
One of the things that still stands out to me about Civil War, and why I'm obviously Team Captain America, is because Iron Man couldn't understand that like the Winter Soldier was brainwashed. Like he like wouldn't deal with it. It's like, dude, he didn't mean to do that, dude. He wouldn't have killed. He wasn't going to kill your dad. Could Black Panther figure it out? Black Panther just met the guys, and he was like, he got it. He understood what was going on there.
But also, like in Civil War, like the first like, oh holy shit moment was when they're chasing after Bucky in the tunnel, right?
Oh, what a scene!
And then Cap's running, and then all of a sudden T'Challa just blows past him. Like you're like, oh shit.
That and when he scratches the shield.
Yeah.
Oh, you're like, wait a minute. You can't do that.
Hey.
That's vibranium.
And to Keefe's point about it sort of being a sporting event, Boseman was a part of the Avengers, which essentially became like a sports team for us.
Yeah.
We were looking forward to the theater experience every single year with these last few movies, like a Super Bowl. And I remember before Endgame, Goo and I were like nervous. We're like, what if this doesn't go
what
well?
if this is the Phantom Menace?
Right.
Endgame's game 7. That's game 7.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
And so it's almost like losing one of your favorite sports players, like a Kobe Bryant type of thing. Like I think that's another reason why he's kind of up there on that level. And moreover, like the actor who's playing Shang-Chi even came out with a statement and said, this movie doesn't happen without Black Panther.
No.
Like that. It's such
100% right.
It's such a leaping point for so many other projects.
Mm-hmm. No, he's right. And speaking of the projects, not to go all screen rant on you, where like an hour after he died, they had a post about like, oh, what's next for the MCU? And you're like, what the fuck? But I'll say this much about it. Black Panther 2 is scheduled. Ryan Coogler's back. We don't really know a whole lot about the story. Davey and I on our podcast have guessed maybe you could introduce Namor. Maybe Doctor Doom becomes a villain. Whatever. Put that to the side. Storm could be good. I like that. My guess is that they probably end up having his sister Shuri take on the mantle of Black Panther.
Yeah.
And the reason I said it for several reasons. One, it's happened in the comics, so they do sometimes take from the comics, or often they take from the comics. But two, the character of Black Panther is way too important to not portray anymore. However, Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of it was so good and was so important that you wouldn't just switch him out like a War Machine or an Incredible Hulk.
I think that would be incredibly offensive too.
It'd be,
I think
it would be rejected.
So
nobody would want it. Oh, it's another thing I meant to mention at the beginning is I wonder if Chadwick understood how much pressure was kind of on him when he got cast originally for Civil War, because like, yeah, they were going to introduce Black Panther one way or another, but if it wasn't good, it just would have been such a disappointment, right, such a letdown, and it wouldn't have had the impact that it had. The movie was nominated for an Oscar, for God's sakes.
It won 3.
And it won 3. But my point is, again, there's plenty of time to discuss like all the roles and how everything's going to play out. I don't know how they're going to do it in the movie. I just know that there needs to be more Black Panther movies, and I think that there will be. But you don't just swap them out like it's
because I also
Fresh
think
Prince of Bel-Air's aunt.
Shuri would have been Black Panther by the third movie, anyways.
Eventually, yeah.
So, yes, exactly. I think that's what they'll do. And she's a great actress, and that's going to be really important too.
And also that character can also take off. She can also take over for like a Tony Stark too. Not to get into this, but yeah.
And obviously, we wouldn't be shocked by it because he's no longer here. But I think it'll be a little bit easier to swallow for some fans too, because that's exactly what's going to happen in Black Widow. Florence Pugh is going to take over the mantle as Black Widow. So I think that can sort of start a change in the MCU, and then it'll be easy to introduce Shuri sort of in that same role as Black Panther.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm hesitant to share my idea, but I did share it with you guys, and I
think you should hold on to this one. I think you should
but I think for a little while. But I think there is in my mind, there is a way to do this, like you guys said, respectfully, and to do it in such a way that makes sense. And I think it all hinges on. And the other thing that we haven't really taken into account yet is like, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the actors in Black Panthers, like, I don't like, think of like a band, like you said, like a team or a band breaking up. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. Right. Like, I don't know if I want to do this without him. No, I don't know how I can do this without it.
I feel like they all know how important it is to so many people to keep this going.
I think it's way too important.
And I also wouldn't be surprised if he had told them to keep this going because of how important it is.
Yeah, and I think they have to get that. And the response that the first movie got, they have to understand. And when you still look at the landscape of superhero movies, the percentage of all Black casts, majority Black casts, this is the only one still. And
it's also crazy. If you looked on social media today, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, kids setting up their action figures to have all of the Avengers mourn Black Panther, which is nuts. Man. Yeah.
Incredible.
The other thing too is like, I remember we were joking about, and now I've done a 182, I don't do the voice anymore. I stopped doing the voice a long time ago. But like we were joking, like every Black actor in Hollywood seemed to be signing on for this movie when it was first getting rumored. And we were like, and now I look back and I'm like, of course they were.
Of course they did.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Like, why wouldn't I want to be part of that? Like, why wouldn't I want to be part of something that special? And like, someone like Forrest Whitaker, who's been around since like the early 80s, like, or maybe late 70s, to have like a bit role. Yeah. And of course, Forrest Whitaker is going to do it. I mean, he's Oscar winner. Like, and he Angela Bassett. Like, you think all these
Angela Bassett was great. Yeah.
And Like it sucks. It just sucks so
and
much.
then he was also signed on to be in Yasuki or Yasuka. I forget. I don't know what it's called, but it's
Okay.
he was to play the first black samurai, which I feel like has a very similar tone to what this is, and
that would have been great.
Would have been great.
That's all I needed to hear.
Yasuke.
Yeah. He also
Yasuke. Thank you.
It may have already been. It may have already been shot. You know all the Disney Plus Marvel shows that are supposed to be coming out, and there was one of them called What If, and it was going to be like a standalone thing, all about. I mean, quite literally, like, hey, what if this happened? Like switching guys around, and I believe he's in it. It might just be a voiceover, but I think that.
I think they would all be voiceovers because I think it's animated.
Oh, is it animated? Then it's 100% a voiceover. So, then yeah, I think he did already do a voiceover because a lot of that stuff has already been shot.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I heard, I forget. Actually, I think Fitzy told me this. I don't know where he read it from, but he said that
inside source.
You know, these big wigs, they have this info. He was telling me that a lot of the Disney Plus shows like Falcon and Winter Soldier are probably already done, but they keep pushing them back because there were supposed to be little clues in like Black Widow, like post credit or like Eternals or like, all these movies have been pushed. So they're like, oh shit, this is fucking up our order. So like that What If show or whatever, I think it's supposed to come out in 2021 now anyway. So we'll see. Also, just because people were posting a lot of the clips, Chadwick Boseman was great on SNL a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
hilarious. The Black Jeopardy.
Black Jeopardy was great.
Hysterical.
The potato salad question. That was
with a Karen. It was a Karen.
Karen.
Before
Karens were the thing. Yeah, he started the Karen craze.
They might have started the Karens.
Yeah.
Yeah, just brutal. And I tweeted this out the other day too. Obviously, all the Marvel movies are on Disney Plus. The Five Bloods is on Netflix. Unfortunately, 42 and what was the other one? I think Marshall you have to pay for, but they're only like $3.99 if you want to watch.
Well,
him
if you
as
send
Jack
a pigeon out, I can send you my DVD of 42, but you got to send it back to me.
I'll take it. And then Get On Up, I believe, was on HBO, one of the streaming services.
And then I'm not telling anyone to turn the channel right now, but I believe Black Panther's on ABC as we speak.
Listen, I don't watch Disney Plus for anything anymore, so I'm just going to watch Black Panther, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame for the next couple of weeks.
So last story I think I was reading a story too about Kendrick Lamar was talking about Black Panther, and they wanted a song from him for the movie.
He did a little bit more than that.
Well, I think he saw the movie and gave them an entire album. Like he was like, this is my thing now. Like he was only supposed to do one song and he gave him 12.
And so like this is, bigger, whatever it is. But Chadwick Boseman, when talking to Coogler, back to this thing here, is that when they were talking about this being a movie, a comic book movie, and he's like, no, this is Star Wars. This is Lord of the Rings. This is going to be that big.
Well, not only that, but this is, and this isn't really the format, I don't think, to take another giant shit on Martin Scorsese, but anybody that's just like, oh, they're comic book movies and they're stupid and they're action and they're stupid. You're like, tell all these kids who finally have like a hero that they can look up to and like inspiration in their life or whatever, or, dealing with a tough time and they can watch this or they can just feel better about themselves, that it's just a stupid, like, action-packed, meaningless movie. Like these comic book movies, listen, not all of them. There's plenty of bad comic book movies like there is with every single genre.
Yeah.
But some of them, the way they tell a story and the way that they give like representation on the screen, it's super important.
And I will say this,
so good. The movie was so good that half of this country thought that Wakanda was a real nation.
It's pretty convincing. But I will say, and I don't think I'm overstating this, and I think I said it when we brought up the Scorsese thing in the first time, but this is our mythology. Like, you think of the Greeks and the Romans and Norse and Egyptian mythology. This is our mythology.
Scotty,
these are the stories.
Scotty.
And these are all of those stories were told as stories. And they're bigger than life characters. This is our mythology, and this is how we show it. We show it through moving pictures. We don't sing it anymore. We don't write it down anymore. We watch it, and that's what this is.
That's the one, like, kind of I dare say positive out of this is just that all of his performances will still live on, and it is so easy nowadays to just pop on Black Panther or to pop on 42 or to pop on whatever. Like more than ever, you can do it. You can watch it on your phone if you want. You can watch it anywhere you want, and
That's not
those
respectful
will just
to the movie, Keefe. On your phone?
Some are meant to be. You're right. They were shot in IMAX. You see them in IMAX.
You watch it on your phone in 1.5.
I do really love
race through it.
The way that's framed, Davey, though, thinking about it in that respect, because then it sort of legitimizes it to other people when you think about it like that. People that have never thought about it before, because you hear these biblical stories or this, that, and the other thing, and why can't these be those? Why not?
I mean, in a sense they are. Because I can tell you, I'm not going to bring it up, but like Romans were more superstitious. They didn't really think that Jupiter existed. They just thought that, somebody at some time probably did something like that. And those
Do
stories.
we have proof that it does exist?
What, Finland?
What does exist? Finland?
No.
Jupiter. Well, Finland too.
No. Jupiter, the god.
Finland,
The Roman equivalent of Zeus.
At the planet. It's a big gaseous state.
Like
I've never been to Finland.
Zeus and the Olympian gods, like they weren't really around. You know what I mean? They were just stories we tell to prove a point, or like parables.
But Hercules came to Earth, though.
Correct. And yeah, he put the glad in gladiator, even though Greeks weren't gladiators. That's fine. Gladiators are a Roman thing. If you're into the Disney thing, I don't want to get off on the thing right now. But
Davey's going to teach a class on our YouTube channel on Wednesday nights. If you guys want to take it, it's a 200 level course, so a little tricky. But
if I get 3 credits, I will take it.
We should do that. We should teach a class, and you get a dork diploma at the end of it.
Quick pull, the mythology book, right there.
I loved mythology as a kid.
There you go. Get
Loved
this book.
it.
This is the best mythology book you can get for every type of mythology. It gives you a crash course on every culture of mythology. Boom.
Love it.
There it is.
Thank
There's
you
my
very much.
recommendation.
Maybe has a giant book of mythology. I have It's Pat the movie behind.
You know what? It's different. Everybody's a little bit different. It's fine. It's no problem. What else? Anything else you guys want to hit on before we get out of here?
Make sure everybody in the chat. It's mostly male. Go to the doctor for fuck's sake. And if you got somebody you haven't talked to in a while, talk to them. Give someone a hug tonight. Pick up your phone, call somebody.
Movember starts in 2 months.
Sure does. We already got a jump start, Goo.
Yeah.
Yep. It's always Movember.
I think my takeaway from this is sort of like Keefe doing a 180 here. Is I 1,000% have judged people in the past for
absolutely
grieving over someone they never knew, and this one changed it for me because it's affected me the last couple of days, and I guess I can't question anyone ever again.
So I've been on a weird sleep schedule with my kid, and I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, and then I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And my wife literally woke me up by saying Chadwick Boseman died. And then it just didn't hit me. I took a nap for a half an hour and then got up and I'm like, wait, what did she just say? And then you look at it and it's like, and the fact that they were the ones that broke it too, and they were able to keep this from everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Just crazy.
Yeah, same thing happened. I forget what I was watching, but then my wife was on her phone and
Porn?
she said I was watching hardcore porno just on my phone.
1.5. Yeah.
I was eating dry Cheerios in one hand, watching
Christina Rose guy
porno in another, and my wife was like, "Oh, Chadwick Boseman died," and I again didn't believe her. I was like, you know how people are tricky on the internet, so I was like,
well, that's why. Yeah,
and then
that's what happened when
my
Kobe
phone.
died too. Is that when that first happened? You're like that didn't happen. No way.
Well, then I grabbed my phone, and the first thing was the text from Mac, and I saw that, and then I go on to Twitter, and it was just everywhere, and you're like, holy shit!
Yeah,
it was like a fucking kick in the stomach. It
really was.
That's what it was. Yeah. Yep.
And again, I mean, I can't imagine for people who actually know him. You know what I mean? Like that's got to be kind of next level. Just super sad. The guy, though, again, corny to say, but it's true. He will live on forever with the roles that he's been, and kids are going to look up to him forever. Like it's just there's no doubt. He was super impactful. Made the most out of his time while he was here, especially in the way that it happened, where he kind of knew for the last 4 years that his time could be limited, and he really made the most of it. On a little bit of a lighter note, Mac and Goo, what do you guys have coming up this week on the podcast?
So we are going to push our Inception episode to either Thursday or Friday. This will be our news dump. And then we'll pick up next week. I don't know, but The Boys comes out on Friday. So
Yeah,
Is
good
it
call.
this Friday?
It's this Friday.
3
Wow.
episodes.
3 episodes.
All right, I like that.
Yeah, so we're
like
gonna
that.
do The Boys, the first 3 episodes next week. This
Mhm.
week, if you guys want a documentary to watch, it's called Man vs. Snake:
Oh,
The
boy.
Long and Twisted Tale of Nibbler. Full disclosure, not as good as The King of Kong,
Mhm.
but pretty damn close.
And if you were wondering, Billy Mitchell does show up.
Yes, he
and
does.
it's a very different Billy Mitchell.
Different Billy Mitchell.
Mhm.
So it's about a ridiculous game, way worse than Pac-Man, way worse than Donkey Kong, even worse than Q*bert. The game is called Nibbler. I've never played it, but
I have played it.
all right.
We'll get into it, but
Q*bert was
unplayable.
pretty bad.
So the game stinks. So we're gonna talk about it tomorrow on our YouTube and then podcast that as well. So that'll do it for us. Thanks for everybody for jumping in the chat. We know it's sort of a tough subject, but I thought it was important to discuss. Chadwick Boseman was the man, and he leaves a great legacy. And people are going to be watching his movies forever, and he's going to be a hero to so many. So that'll do it for us for #Dork and Mac Goo. We will talk to you guys soon.